Today on First Issue Ever, we wrap up Deadpool month with my review of the Deadpool film. Stick around.
First issue ever.
Ooh. Oh, yes, that's very... Oh, well, hello, and welcome back to another episode of First Issue Ever. My name is Steve, and I am your comic book comrade in this cold, cold world that we're living in. All right, so to wrap up Deadpool month, I thought this final episode will be a review of the Deadpool movie. Yeah, because first we reviewed the Deadpool comic, that is Deadpool #1. Then we had an interview with a Deadpool, Dirk Ellis. Hope you guys enjoyed that, and big thanks to Dirk for coming out. So that brings us to the here and now, and that's a review of the Deadpool movie, which came out, back at the beginning of the month. I'm sure you've heard a bunch of other reviews, but I want to be clear, my opinion is the only one that matters. All right, so let's get down to it. I did go and watch Deadpool opening night. I guess maybe it was a little before opening night because we went on a Thursday, the overpriced Megaplex down the road, and it was indeed sold out. I think everyone thought that, maybe they were the only ones that knew about Deadpool, because that's kind of how Deadpool is. He's like, he's everybody's inside joke into the world of superheroes. Let's get down to the review. First, I'm going to talk about what I liked, what I didn't like, and then I'm going to give you my final verdict. Okay, what I liked is, they nailed down the script and the tone of Deadpool perfectly. Ryan Reynolds' performance as Deadpool was awesome. It's like he was born to play him, and I don't even really like Ryan Reynolds' previous work. I never really thought he was all that funny. He's just a guy that sort of has good delivery, but I guess if you pair him with the right writers, like people who are funny, then that is a winning combination. And that is a combination that equals Deadpool, apparently. This movie had some great one-liners. I mean, it was a laugh riot all the way through. And I mean, that's how a Deadpool comic is supposed to be. It's definitely a smart thing to rely on the writing because it's clear they didn't exactly have the largest budget for this, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. There was a lot of stuff taken straight from the comics, thrown up on the screen, just like I told you from the original ongoing run with Blind Owl and Weasel. All that stuff was from the comics. See, I told you, I know everything about Deadpool. Not really. This film comes along at just the right time because for the last, 10, 15 years, we've gotten all this PG-13, superhero movies, for better or worse. And finally, someone was like, hey, I think people are ready for something different. They want blood, they want violence, and they want a bunch of swearing. And they want comedy, too. It's funnier than Ant-Man, for sure. I mean, Ant-Man was funny, and Ant-Man was a solid movie, but this is funnier from a much darker place. All right, now let me talk about the things that I didn't exactly care for. Now, I get it, they had a small budget for this, and that's okay. But I thought the CGI on Colossus looked really, really cheap. I figure, why can't they get the Colossus suit from X-Men 2? Is that more expensive than cheaply rendering a video game looking Colossus? The voice they chose for him, it was really over the top and almost cartoony. It sounded like some American voice actor's idea of what they thought a Russian accent should sound like. Maybe just tone it down a little bit. Like, I get they probably wanted a kind of a counterbalance, between anti-hero Deadpool and like over-the-top super heroic Colossus, but you just bring that voice down just a little bit. Give it a little color. Don't make it so operatic. Well, a lot of people are saying that this is a perfect interpretation of the Deadpool comic, which it is very close, but there's a lot of little tweaks they did to Deadpool the character to make him a little bit more accessible for the theater-going public. Now, of course, this had tons of swearing and F-bombs, which, I mean, you don't really get those in a Marvel comic. I mean, but you know, you could picture Deadpool swearing. I mean, that's not a big deal. But in the comics, of course, depending on who's writing, Deadpool is a much more conflicted and dark, sort of outsidery character than they portrayed him in the movie. And that's okay, because, you know, the movie is an action comedy, and I'm sure they didn't want too much of that drama thrown in there. Maybe they'll deal with that later on down the line. Wade's main motivation is to rescue his girlfriend. Well, later. Before that, it's, ooh, will my girlfriend like me for the thing that I've become? Now, another problem I had was the villain, Ajax or Francis, whatever you want to call him. I thought he looked very generic. The guy they cast, I felt like he was the guy you get when you can't afford Jason Statham. And that's all right. If that's the only guy they can get, that's okay. But he just looked so generic. I mean, give the guy an eye patch or something. I mean, he was just so boring. You know, you're fighting Deadpool, you know, this guy in this awesome red and black costume. It's like, you gotta have something, like, to come back with, except for, I don't know, I think he was wearing, like, gray armor at the end. I mean, but again, maybe that's all they could afford. We'll cut out some slack, because again, the writing was so great that the lack of budget doesn't really matter. And that should be a lesson to anyone. As long as your script is good, who cares? Use puppets, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Other problems with the movie is there was really no point towards the end where, you know, stuff got real. Like, I was waiting for something to happen at the end, like Ajax killing Vanessa, and then Deadpool getting really angry, and then, you know, they fight. But even then, it wouldn't be a big deal, because Deadpool, you know, is practically immortal or has his healing factor, and you know his healing factor is better than Ajax. So there was never a point where I have thought, ooh, I don't think Deadpool is gonna win. He might die or something like that. That never happened. It never got to that moment, because, you know he's gonna win. You know, they should have done something like maybe Ajax developed something to get rid of Deadpool's healing factor, so at the end they're a little bit more evenly matched, but then Deadpool wins in the end anyway, gets his revenge, and, you know, he and Vanessa go off to the sunset, which I also kind of have a problem with that ending as well, because again, the Deadpool in the comics is an outsider. He's always trying to get girls to like him, and even if or when they do like him, something happens and they either end up being evil or they end up getting killed, and then he's right back to where he started as the loner, you know, pretty much loner Deadpool, questioning whether he's a hero or a killer, like in the beginning. And that leads me to Deadpool 2, and like, what are they gonna do then again? I mean, is Vanessa gonna get kidnapped again and he's gonna have to go save her? Like, are they gonna kill her off at the beginning? And then what are you gonna have Deadpool doing? And maybe that's one of the reasons why it took so long for a Deadpool movie in the first place, is because what can you do with a guy who can't be killed, aside from the Highlander, of course, what can you do with a guy who can't be killed, who's not exactly good and who isn't exactly bad? Like, how can you put that through the old 3-act, you know, hero's journey structure? And I think they pulled it off pretty well with the first one, him fighting to save his girlfriend. That's very accessible, you know, for anyone with a girlfriend, I guess. But then, you know, what are they gonna do next time? I don't know. I guess we will have to watch and find out, my good friend. So the overall verdict is that I love the movie. And I understand the tweaks that they made, and I am okay with it, and I'll definitely watch the next one. And maybe you and I can watch it together. Ever play the popcorn game? Me either. You shouldn't. If anyone ever asks you, you say no. Okay. All right, well, that's gonna do it for this episode of First Review Ever. Please make sure you subscribe, like, and comment. And until the next episode, my name is Steve, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.